cleaning up here at Lake Harriet, one of two events we covered tonight, two sides of the 9/11 coin. In one instance, a group who says we should never forget what happened, and another group who says we should never forget to ask questions about what happened.
It gets bigger every year.
On a crisp night.
This is terrific. It's really good.
Raw emotions, and for another year a huge Harriet Bandshell crowd, whether watching or participating in this memorial concert.
I'm playing hooky from another rehearsal to be here tonight.
Proof that 9/11, even on its 6th anniversary, is worth taking the evening out to honor and remember those lost.
This is my birthday, so this is the way I prefer to spend it.
In another part of Minneapolis, another huge crowd, another way to honor 9/11, this time by questioning it.
I lost my husband, John Cassette.
A packed house at Riverview Theater to see the film Press for Truth, which traces how 9/11 may have been prevented.
No one has been fired. In fact, many people have been promoted after 9/11.
How some 9/11 family members who pushed for the official investigation were only disappointed by it.
Well, there's 70% of the questions that were put together by the family members were not even answered or just minimally answered.
To actually think about what happened, to actually explore what happened, to actually want to know more about what happened is actually honoring it more than just being like, oh, great, memorial, we're done,
But to those many who turned out for this memorial tonight, of course, it is much, much more than just a one night and we're done. A lot of those people, by the way, that showed up to watch that film tonight, many of them say that, there are a lot of people who get into conspiracy theories. There are many who say, though, that we should just keep asking questions and finding out, really, if there are people who still, to this day, should be held accountable for what happened 6 years ago. Live at Lake Harriet, Rob Wilson, Fox 9 News.
Of the year, Coleen Rowley.
Kind of almost like ancient history, so some of the things in the movie are going to evoke some memories. But if you remember back 8 months after 9/11, when things weren't really being answered and swept under the rug, I was the FBI agent who decided that they needed to do a better job of unraveling some of these painful mistakes. So when I wrote this 12-page, 13-page memo, I knew it wasn't going to be, well received and necessarily greeted, So, and when I got a chance to testify to the Senate Judiciary, I actually spent a lot of time trying to tell them why the truth was necessary. I had a whole list, because people, of course, didn't want to necessarily admit some of these things. So one of the main reasons, of course, is that we owe it to the public and to the victims. Victims really will never be able to get any sense of closure until they really know some of these answers. And the other reason is because if we do not really understand what caused something to happen, it's impossible to fix it. Can you imagine if class, if someone said we aren't going to have an investigation of white class, we're just going to build a new one. I mean, and in fact, now you see how all of these series of mistakes stem from 9/11, because in fact, some of the questions were not answered. I would just also mention that today's paper, you can Google it and find out, has a great op-ed by the two commissioners, Lee Hamilton and Keene. And basically this issue about whether we're safer or not, and by and large, it's a very constructive op-ed. So even though this movie does ask some of the harder, the questions that weren't answered, and it definitely talks about some of the murkier areas, some of the 9/11 Commission did, in fact, come up with some decent recommendations that just haven't been followed. I'm going to let you know, too, that the two producers, Ray Nowoleski and John Duffy, are here tonight, and they're going to be at a wine bar afterwards and going to speak a little, so if you're interested in asking them some questions. And now Catherine Statz is going to introduce the movie.
September 11th Statz died in the Pentagon September 11, 2001. She was 41 years old, a student of music and theater, and was working as a civilian employee for a year and a half at the Pentagon. She left behind a husband and 2 young boys. Ever since she was a child, her focus had always been to help people, from working as a young 4-H member and then as an actress and director in U.S. Army-based theaters in Germany, to running a youth care center on an Army base in Bamberg, Germany. She wanted to make a difference in people's lives. Just 6 weeks before September 11, 2001, she and her co-workers from the Army's personnel office were relocated to the section of the Pentagon that was struck that day. Hundreds of questions remain unanswered, yet this administration continues to use 9/11 to justify foreign wars. Our loved ones and the American people deserve to have the truth behind 9/11 told. And that is why I'm here today to introduce this film. The producers and directors did a great job of merging the experiences of 6 family members of 9/11 victims with researcher Paul Thompson's complete 9/11 timeline. The filmmakers stitched together overlooked news clips, varied stories, and government press conferences. The result is a truly thoughtful and reliable piece that provides a powerful argument for why 9/11 still needs investigation. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Of course, please be courteous as you watch and refrain from talking so that everyone can hear. I hope that you find this film informative and compelling. I'd like to leave you with a quote from Thomas Jefferson. When the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. Thank you again.